If you like these videos, please check out my full course at www.lsat.totaltestprep.net with tons of clearly explained actual LSAT questions written by someone who's mastered test and helped others master it, and an evaluation period where you only pay if you want to continue. Alright, in this video we're going to cover the primary purpose questions. So what is the primary purpose question? So what does this question ask for? And once again, in other words, how is it phrased? What does it test? How do we approach it? Okay, so looking at the basic information, you'll get phrasing like the author's primary purpose in writing the passage is to, or the primary purpose of the passage is to, etc. So something along those lines. So the questions will ask for the primary or the overall general purpose or concern of the passage. So not just purpose of a specific part, but of the passage as a whole. These questions are relatively frequent and they appear at least once every couple of passages. And the primary purpose questions tend to be a bit more difficult than some of the others because the answer choices aren't actually directly stated in the text. And these questions are by definition general. So you need to have an understanding of the whole passage and the thrust of the argument in order to know what the primary purpose is. Alright, so that's in terms of the basic information. So looking at the information in terms of the question type, the primary purpose questions test your ability to identify the author's perspective and the overall argument. So you're not looking through the passage for specific information, but instead you need to be able to have a good idea of the author's perspective and their motivation behind expressing that perspective. These questions are part of the same broad group as the main point questions, and you saw in the previous ones the author's attitude in some sense, but they're more similar to the main point questions since you're looking to figure out what the author thinks, and since also because they're more general. So in this case, you're not looking for the conclusion of the overall argument in the passage, but you're looking for the motivation behind making that argument. So it's like the main point question. So like the main point questions, these are general and will require evaluation and interpretation of the overall argument. Okay, so you see these are more general and you're looking for the author's motivation. In terms of the basic approach, having an understanding of the author's main point and the structure of the overall passage is going to be key. So first you need to come up with the author's main point and overall structure of the passage from the author's perspective. So determine the overall logical relationships in the text, and if there's a main point, question, use it to evaluate the choices. Then go through the choices and see whether the first part of the choice fits with the tone, with the structure, and the intent of the author's perspective, and whether the second part fits with the contents of the author's perspective. So the question is general, so you won't be evaluating the information in the choice against a specific piece of text, but instead against your interpretation of the text as a whole. So looking at the right answer and wrong answer a little bit more in detail, the correct answer choice correctly identifies the author's motivation and approach and correctly summarizes the content of the author's perspective. So the author's approach and motivation are going to vary from being supportive, critical, or neutral. The incorrect answer choices are going to misrepresent the author's motivation and approach and or the content of the author's perspective. So the choices may infer too much or the wrong thing concerning the author's motivation, or may focus too narrowly or too broadly or incorrectly on the author's topic. Okay, in terms of the quick summary, the basic approach is to have an understanding of the author's main point along with the structure of the passage and the author's argument, and to keep that in mind as you're valuing the choices for scope and content. So these questions are almost always found after main point questions, so you can use the answer from the main point question as your guide, and vice versa, depending which one you do last. So you save these ones for last along with the main point questions.